All right, Coach, let's talk about this week's game at San Diego State.
Yeah, this is got to go on the road, play a really, really, really good opponent right now that's playing extremely well. 6-1, played very well at home. Have basically gotten 2 shutouts at home, got 3 shutouts defensively on the year. They're very, very good as a football team. I think they're playing really well complementary-wise across the board. They run the ball well offensively. They're not turning it over. They're very big in their offensive line. Jordan Napier is a really good receiver. Number 2, makes a lot of big plays for them. The running backs are good players. And when they do that, now they're playing to a strength. They stay in that phase where they're a heavy run team and do that. And then they play really well on special teams. And they're also extremely good defensively. So, you have to be able to try to keep, plays strung together, which is easier said than done when they're good at every level. Their leading tackler, Owen Chambliss, is an outstanding linebacker, can run very, very well. They've got a corner in Chris Johnson who's got 3 interceptions, a really good player. Dale-Sean Staley is a safety that's very impactful for them, gets downhill run game-wise, and then they've got Trey White, who's one of the better pass rushers in the country. So, at every level, they're really good, and that makes it, difficult. And then they're also a team that doesn't turn the ball over and do that. They're playing winning football, and there's a reason that they're 6-1.
Jay, we'll come in here on some Mondays and talk about some of the bad things you saw on film during the week. I'm curious what your favorite part of watching the film was from Saturday's game.
Probably, I think there was 2 things, overall that I was really pleased to see Saturday night. One was how hard we played. We played very hard. I think the second thing is that our overall level of execution was really good, offensively and defensively, in terms of, and you measure that based on like what's your missed assignment count or any lack of communication. We didn't blow a protection, and that's a team that brings a lot of different pressures. We didn't fully, you had an idea what to expect offensively, but with some changes, you didn't fully know what you would get a little bit of. And I thought defensively we handled those things well. So I think when you look at it and go, okay, we played really hard, we executed really well, that's really normally a pretty good combination. And look, one other thing about last Saturday that is to thank the fans. Our fans were tremendous at that game Saturday night. That stadium was amazing Saturday night, and it's always such a big deal, not only for the people that are playing and our team that's playing, but also in terms of what you're trying to build going forward recruiting-wise. It was a very good recruiting weekend for us, as you can imagine. So big thanks to the fans because they brought it Saturday night.
Jay, you guys are 32nd in the country in scoring defense. Obviously, in that last drive in that fourth quarter, holding them in the red zone. What is that? And there's some reserves in there at that point in the game. What does that maybe say about the pride of this defense and what Aaron Bull has been able to get out of this group consistently through 8 games?
Yeah, first of all, there's a lot of things there. The pride of the defense. I think it was on display pretty well down there. All the defensive players were down at the far end of the coach's box too when the ball's at the 10-yard line, coaching all the guys that were still in. And when the 2-minute timeout happened, and those guys all come over, they're coaching those guys. It was like that was a must thing for them. It was to get that shutout, and I think that I appreciated that part of it. I think overall, that's what's really impressive. Like when you look at San Diego State, like defensively, where they're at statistically on a number of things, because I really like where we are at a number of things. We're one of the better ones in the country in yards per pass attempt against us. When you talk and you're at 5.79 at that, you're really hoping to be around 6.1 on it. You think that's really good, and we're below that. So we're not giving up big plays in that phase of it. I think that we're we're doing a pretty good job in a number of areas of making people work to create drives and do that. And we're going to have a big challenge with it this week. But no, I really like where we are defensively. I think our guys are playing hard. I think they believe in each week's game plan and have a strong belief in what we're going to work to get done. And, I think it's that part's been fun. And I've enjoyed watching us play. And that shutout the other night was that was, much appreciated by everybody in the program defensively. All the players, they wanted that. And so with that group on the field, that was a big deal.
Coach, you highlighted the Aztecs defense, and then your defense has been kind of a strength for you. Does this game project out as kind of a defensive struggle, and do you expect kicking game, punts to be pretty important this week?
I mean, look, I think first and foremost, we're going to have to play really well, okay? And then, we play really well, and then we figure out the type of game it is. It's not like, I mean, they've got good players on offense too, and I think what Sean's done a really good job with is play winning football, right? Like, I think they've got the capacity to do certain things offensively, and I think they do a really good job of playing good special teams and playing good defense and do that with it. And so, look, we're going to have to play extremely good. We'll have to play our best game defensively. And we're going to have to find ways offensively to be productive, to keep the ball away. I think one thing that was maybe hidden from Saturday night, I think at the end of the first quarter, they had 5 plays and we had, 27 or something like that. Okay, well, that's a good start, and that's winning football in that way. The struggle with San Diego State's keeping yourself on the field, and that's the big thing there. They're hard to run against. They don't give you a lot of plays. They do a good job of not having missed assignments themselves in doing that. And so I think that's a big piece of why they're good.
Jay, I was hoping you were going to say one of your favorite things you saw was Chris Durr's backflip before half.
That's kind of cool.
Did you know he traveled with the circus and stuff growing up doing this stuff?
I mean, I know so I think we could, that backflip was pretty good in the victory formation. So I did, I appreciated that. I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm not certain that Tyson Dean didn't hit one later on too, somewhere on the field. And so, no, I mean, I think, look, our players came to, they brought it the other night. They brought it the way that a rivalry game demands you bring it, right? So I appreciate that. And so, they had to look at an empty trophy case for a year now in the weight room. And that trophy case is normally upstairs in the offices. And, this week we're leaving that boot in the trophy case in the weight room because those guys had to look at it all year empty. I want them to look at it with that thing in it.
Jay, I asked you this after the game, but I'm curious now that you've watched the film, maybe what stood out to you with Bo Knight's plan, just in terms of obviously Durr getting involved, a couple running backs getting involved, and just what you saw different about the offense last week.
Look, I think I thought that we put a little more stress on defenses than what we had before, and I think we did that a number of ways. There's quarterback run game with Landon Sims. There's a different, goal line look that we gave. It didn't work, but at least, we would give a different look. I thought we, in the run game, did a good job of, first of all, Bo did a pretty good job of just staying committed to it, and doing that. I think that was a big piece of it. And then in the pass game, he was really decisive with what he wanted called, which also helped the quarterback be really decisive with what we thought we needed to do. And I thought there was a good plan through the week and, some creativity to certain things, but also a directness in calling it and a directness in what we were going to do in each situation through the course of the week that the players were on the same page with, the quarterback was on the same page with, all the coaches were on the same page with, and I thought it really showed.
Coach, it felt like you guys executed pretty well in the red zone on Saturday. What did you like about that, and how important is it to maybe get 7 out of drives when you're in the red zone this weekend?
Well, we were going to go for that 4th down on that first one time we were down there. That was never even I don't even think the question even got asked to me. It was, like as soon as we didn't get it, like it was like we went to the next play, and there wasn't even a doubt. And I think, look, our players did a good job of okay, when we're down there, like we needed to get sevens, and that's what we talked about. We were a little bit disappointed. I think, we had last 24 minutes of the game we didn't score, and we really wanted another 7 or 14 in that. And so, but there's also some of the game management that dictates a little bit of it at times too. But no, I thought the intent of the players down there was very good. I thought we also had some diversity to some things that we were doing, not only running Landon in the red zone, but also, a play that we're going to run Landon on, but he's got an option to throw a bubble. We throw a bubble to Sarge, and we gained 7 yards on it when the run play would have got swamped. So I thought the coaches had a good plan. The players had a great intent about it.
The guys came out and played with the intensity that a rivalry game requires, but also looked like they were having fun. Does that elevate their game a little bit more too?
Well, I mean, look, there's a big piece of it to where, it's kind of interesting when you phrase it in certain ways. Guys will play, 12 regular season games a year, bowl games, everything else. What are you looking at? A guy in a 4-year college career, it's 55 games at most, right? If he's playing all that time. You spend all your life playing football, you get to your college career, and really your college career is the month of February and part of March in terms of number of days. So don't waste one. And that was kind of the message, like, hey, like we got, like, embrace this. Like we embraced the game the other night. And the reason I say that, embrace the game, there's a lot of people don't get to play in a rivalry game. And there's a lot of people that don't get to do it on national television in front of a sold-out stadium and all this other stuff that went with it. There was a part of it, we had an intent and we had an anger and we had a bitter pill that we needed to kind of, spit out of our mouth. But there was also a part of it that's like, guys, understand the blessing that we all have to be able to go do this on that Saturday night and what this is going to be about. And they played with that type of deal. I mean, it's kind of like a joyous rage, right? That's what you got to play with. Enjoy the fact that you're playing. Be mad as heck that you got to line up across from somebody. There's always going to be an obstacle. But I thought they did a good job with that the other night.
This secondary really made a statement the other night, statistically at least. How pleased are you with their progression throughout the season and where they're at right now?
Yeah, I think that there's been a good progression with them, really all season long. We've had several different people contribute, and I think that's, look, from where we were a year ago, we were, due to some injuries and due to depth and all that. I mean, there was times the cupboard was really bare at times at that. And we've worked really hard to try to, upgrade ourselves all the way through. And I think we have. I think we still have more work to do. I would hope that a year from now that this secondary is a lot better. And really, it probably should be, because when you look at it, there's a lot of them that should be back, and that will be back, and in that regard. So I do feel, I do think that it's a strength of ours right now. But look, I've coached that position long enough. Every day is a new adventure, and don't sit there and think that you got the answers in the secondary, because you're about one day away from giving up like 3 bombs, and then you look like you don't know how to play. So everybody always has to understand that. Like, we get some adjectives and like descriptive terms of how you've got to play when you're in a secondary. None of those would be press conference worthy. So it's kind of where we're at.
Coach, De'Majay Harris picked up 30 yards on 5 carries at the end of the game, 6 yards a carry. What did you like about the way he played?
Yeah, I thought he had a couple good runs in there and did that. And I without getting too much into De'Majay, like he and I have had a number of talks recently about certain things, and a lot of it's been hard on De'Majay a little bit, right? He's not been playing. He had an injury coming out of fall camp. We had a high expectation. He's not met that expectation necessarily, but that's also something that we feel like there's still the possibility of him meeting expectations And in doing that, and I think he's in a much better frame of mind right now. He was going into the game. He was after the game, the whole deal. I've never had a player in my entire career, grab me before a game and I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, this is on the sideline. We're about to receive the kickoff. And he goes, hey, thanks for believing in me. Okay, great. Okay, so I believe in him, and I think he's got a chance to do really good things here. And so, I hope it pans out. One other thing with it too is and I do think everybody, this was a tough deal, and I admired him for playing through it. Tehran lost a very, very close family member Saturday, and found out about it in the morning, and played the game that night. That's not easy to do when somebody's raised you, essentially, and that person passes, and that you have to go out and play football. So, so that room's pretty close. So I appreciate that.
Getting quickly back to Demaje, you mentioned preseason about wanting to use him on kickoff. Is that an option maybe going forward?
Yeah, we discussed it. He and I discussed it a little bit today too. So that's something that we'll probably revisit and look at. Now that he's fully healthy, everything else. And look, I think that there's a lot of things that go into sometimes if a guy isn't playing or meeting the expectation or hope that he has for himself, the one thing you got to do is make sure that guy doesn't become his own worst enemy. And right now he's in a much better spot than what he was a few weeks ago, and so we got to keep working with that.
Isaac Sell seems like he's been around forever, and I think he's played 3 different positions maybe since he's been here. How cool is it to see him make a play on special teams?
Yeah, look, I think Isaac Sell's a trusted person in this program. We appreciate, the efforts that he gives. He's been a receiver. He's been a corner. He's been a safety nickel. There's a lot of things that way, but one thing he's done very well, and that was a really good play the other night. Anytime you're down an opponent at the 2-yard line, and it kind of stretched him to the limit of his verticality, right? Because he's not the tallest guy in the world to be able to bat that ball back in. But no, Isaac, you always know what you're going to get, and I think that's always a big piece of any time you put somebody out on the field. You're always going you know what you're going to get out of him, and look, we all appreciate Isaac for what he does.
You mentioned that sellout crowd, but you had the top 3 wide receivers in program history all in the same place here last weekend. How special was that, maybe just for these players to be able to experience some of the history of this program?
Yeah, so we had Mr. Yarborough speak to the team on Friday. I think that's always a good thing when you can involve former players and talk about what the rivalry means. We had Mr. Harris break down the team after the game Saturday night. I think that was a cool thing for him to be a part of. And look, I think that this is a special place with a number of players that have bled for this program for a number of years. And any time, in any way, shape, or form that we can involve any of them, we're always going to do it. And I welcome all the interaction that we can get with any player that has went through this program. It was great to see Andrew Peasley and Wyatt Wheeland and Ryan Marquez before the game the other day, and they were asking me for black stuff, and I didn't have any for them. I just said go to the equipment room, and evidently they didn't give them any or something. I don't know, but it's great to see all those guys.
Jay, is it safe to say that San Diego State's defense kind of begins and ends with Niles King and Trey White and what they do? Are they kind of the motor behind this thing?
They're it's like everywhere. That's the thing. It's everywhere. That's the hard part. If it's just about like a couple people, you can figure out a way to avoid that. Typically when it's that, and then there's a corner and there's linebackers and there's safeties, and they're all physical. They all run well. They all play hard. They've done a very good job there of not trying to reinvent the wheel schematically, so they're not in a position where, they do good things, but what I mean by that is they're not trying to run guys all over the place and miss a bunch of assignments in the process. They stay in certain lanes and they play great in those lanes. And and they do it at all 3 levels. So, yeah, as much as it sounds cool to say that it starts and ends with those guys, it doesn't. It starts with them maybe, but it ends all over the field. So it's a difficult defense.
Caden Anderson, post-game Saturday, talked about making your 2024 Border War highlight reel. Inspiration hit him from that. What inspiration reels are you showing this week for San Diego State, if any?
I don't know. I mean, look, it's a different thing with that. I mean, look, every game's important, and we got to make it to where our guys understand that we need to go have one great game this week. We got to figure out a way to have one great game this week because we don't have to worry about one next week, you know? And so we got to figure out a way to have a great week of practice and one great game. Now, when you're talking about, look, things get different when you talk about a team that's 60 miles down the road and it's a rivalry game that everybody's going to talk about in that. And when you have lost that game from the year before, yeah, our team meeting on Tuesday was one of the more interesting team meetings I think that probably has ever happened. As far as it was, I don't think you could hear a thing when that one ended. And there was a lot. I didn't have to say anything. We just played the video. Here you go. And you know, I don't know that that's going to be a thing this week. I mean, we're not bordering with them. We're not going to keep playing them. From what I understand, I don't know. Just tell me who we play.
Jay, I haven't asked you this in a while. Any injury updates?
We came out of the other night really healthy, so that was a good thing. Injury updates. Dasus Miller will get he has to get surgery this week. So in terms of he won't play, and that's something that based on the break of the bone, there's a period of time that they have to do that. And he will be in that window. He'll get surgery this week. He will miss this game. He will be ready to play coming out of the bye week. So that's where we're at.